welcome to the Your Security Business Podcast, where we dive into information and practical tips for running your security company in the best way possible. I'm your host, Rudo Robinson. In today's episode, we tackle a timeless concept that can revolutionize how you run your business and make decisions. Perfect is the enemy of good is a concept that traces back to the 1700s, coined by French philosopher Voltaire. In brief, Voltaire suggested that chasing an unattainable ideal often prevents us from achieving good, practical outcomes. For us in business, especially in the security business, perfection is the enemy of good, which is sometimes called good over perfect, reflects the fact that the benefit from taking a task or project from good to perfect does not always justify the effort and expense required to achieve perfection. It's about getting things done well enough and on time rather than getting stuck trying to make them perfect. We should all strive to do our best, but if you always aim for perfection, you will blow deadlines, miss opportunities, and annoy your clients. It is important to focus on being effective over being flawless. Let me share a personal story. I used to agonize over writing sensitive emails to clients. Whenever I had to respond to a sales inquiry, share some unpleasant news, or nearly anything customer service related, I would spend hours crafting the perfect message. I was always concerned with the smallest word usage could make or break the deal. It was stressful and incredibly time consuming. In fact, my wife and I ran our business together, so I would have her review it before I sent it. She would usually reply with very minor changes. Guess what happened next? I would take another look based on what she edited and find other things to rethink or rewrite. To which she would usually reply with something like, "Why do you keep bothering me about this email? Just send it." This was very stressful and not the best way to have a happy marriage. I can assure you of that. I decided to shift my approach. Before writing an email about a sensitive subject, I started asking myself two questions. First was, what do I want the person reading the email to understand? And then I would ask, what feeling do I want the recipient to have after reading it? Some of you may find it odd that I'm discussing feelings when it comes to business communication. Here's the deal. People are human beings. We all are subject to our emotions. Having a business does not change that. Have you ever received an email that made you angry? Then you know feelings can affect communications. If it is a customer service situation, I may want them to feel confident we're on top of things. If it's a sales situation, I may want them to feel like I listened to them in our meeting and I understand their needs. After writing the draft, I'd review it by asking the following questions. Would the average person understand my message? And how might they feel after reading it? This simple change helped me communicate more effectively without agonizing over crafting the perfect message. If the average person can understand what I'm trying to communicate, and it will likely create the feelings I wanted them to take away from it, then it is a good email. Press send. And that's what I did. Let's go back to Voltaire for a minute. To approach the depth of Voltaire's statement, let's briefly explore his perspective. Good news, this is not going to be an in-depth analysis of the Enlightenment and go deep into the philosophical trends of the 1700s. We'll save that conversation for the future. Voltaire lived in a time of great philosophical debate, where the idea of perfection was often seen as the ultimate goal. He argued that this pursuit could lead to paralysis, where nothing gets done because it could always be better. This paralysis would later be called paralysis analysis in modern times. His philosophy encourages us to prioritize action over perfection, a vital lesson for security business leaders to learn. I have a friend who runs a security business that faced a dilemma when choosing software for scheduling and time and attendance. This was an important decision. It dealt with his payroll, his scheduling. Of course, that was important. So he did a lot of research and narrowed it down to 3 vendors. After seeing demos, he found a tool that did nearly everything he needed it to do except for one thing. It didn't automatically export his reports to payroll. He would have to export the reports from the system and then manually upload that spreadsheet into the payroll system. Instead of discarding it for this lack, he realized the minor inconvenience of manually exporting reports, which took about 5 minutes, was worth the trade-off. This decision saved him hours of work and significant expense that would have been spent searching for the perfect option. And here's the thing. He could have kept looking and never found one that had everything that he wanted in the first place. Sometimes perfect isn't even possible. If you're looking to embrace this approach, keep this in mind to ensure the successful integration of the good over perfect philosophy into your security business operations. It's critical to be methodical and thoughtful about how and where you apply it. Start with areas where precision is less critical, perhaps certain administrative tasks. Implement changes gradually and monitor the outcomes. Here are some expanded guidelines to follow. Start with your own tasks. Before rolling out this concept across your organization, it's important to apply it to your own responsibilities. First-hand experience is invaluable. It has several benefits. It helps you understand its impact. You'll see directly how choosing good enough over perfect can save time and resources and where it might fall short. It refines the approach. By applying this concept to your tasks first, you can adjust and tweak the strategy to better fit the unique needs of your organization. It also sets an example. Demonstrating that you are willing to embrace this philosophy shows your team that you trust the process and value efficiency alongside quality and effectiveness. It sets a leadership tone that prioritizes practical decision-making. Once you've experienced the benefits and limitations firsthand, then you can introduce the concepts to key members of your management team. Choose those who exhibit strong work ethic and judgment. This selective sharing is critical because team members who are disciplined and proactive are more likely to understand and implement the good over perfect concept effectively, using it to enhance productivity without compromising the company's standards. Avoid misuse. It's important to avoid sharing this approach with those who might see it as a shortcoming in shirking responsibilities. Lazy or less committed managers could potentially misuse this philosophy, which might lead to a drop in quality and morale. If such managers are in your team, this might be a good moment to reassess their roles and fit within your organization. Who wants to keep someone on their team that's lazy? Just a thought. Be cautious when implementing this into a broader scope of your organization. There is a risk of misinterpretation. Lower level employees or those with direct operational impact might misunderstand good enough and see it as a license to cut corners while high standards are non-negotiable, especially in high-risk security scenarios. Never introduce this concept to low-level personnel, especially not security officers. Even with a perfect is the enemy of good approach, maintaining quality remains to be important. There are a few concerns to keep in mind when implementing this approach. One common concern is the fear that embracing perfect is the enemy of good might lead to poor quality in critical areas. Here's how you decide if good over perfect fits a situation. Evaluate the risk associated with the task or work being good but not perfect. For high-risk tasks, closer to perfection is usually better. Think use of force continuum. But for routine tasks, good enough often suffices, improving overall efficiency. This is often things like emails, SOPs, or proposals. Consider the time investment required to achieve perfection. Making it perfect may be worth an extra hour. However, it may not be worth an additional week. Weigh the benefits of perfection against the costs. How much better would perfect be, and how would it affect the results? Will it make it twice as impactful, or will it likely not make much of a difference? Another concern is ensuring that perfect is the enemy of good does not become an excuse for poor quality work. Let me share a story that illustrates this point fairly well. After applying perfect is the enemy of good to myself, I decided to share the concept with my marketing team. The result was I received marketing materials that were frankly subpar. They had layout issues, typos, and were frankly visually unappealing. They were not good enough. They actually weren't good at all, if you ask me. I had to step in and clarify, good still needs to meet a certain standard of excellence. Good does not mean mediocre, especially when it comes to marketing. What did I learn? Implementing a perfect is the enemy of good strategy can be effective. However, you must set minimum quality standards. Make sure everyone understands that while perfection isn't the goal, the work still needs to fulfill its purpose effectively. It must still be good work. All team members must understand that good enough is not about lowering standards, but about optimizing decision-making to be timely and resource efficient without jeopardizing safety or service quality. Okay work is not good enough. It must be good. Also, use specific tasks as examples of things that should and should not be perfect. It's vital to understand when good is good enough and when to push for perfection. Thanks for joining me today. Remember, striving for perfection is less important than effective and efficient action in our line of work. Embracing good enough where it makes sense can allow you to get more done in less time without sacrificing your ability to meet quality expectations. Tune in next time for more insights into running a successful security business. If you'd like to access to free information and resources to help your security business, be sure to visit our website, yoursecuritybusiness.com. This is Rudo Robinson. I encourage you to go out there and do the right things in the right way to get the best results.